Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Career Path panel. Today we have with us Neil.
All right, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Neil Nagrath. I graduated from TISB in 2014, and I subsequently went on to do a 6 year medical degree at Charles University in Prague, which I finished this year in 2020. So right now I'm just doing some licensing exams for the UK, and I plan to be working as a junior doctor in the UK next year. I'll actually go right to the beginning with when I was at TISB. Actually, well, I was a bit unsure of what kind of career path I wanted to take, and I had had a big discussion with my family about whether I should, look at medicine, look at engineering, look at aviation because my parents are pilots, and I was really unsure. So we kind of decided to go with this idea that we'll pick the subjects that we enjoy and we'll figure out what career we want to go with after. So what really worked well for me was biology and chemistry. And at a high level, I also took economics because I wanted to have exposure to a good social science as well, instead of just being scientifically oriented. So I did that, and then I did all my applications and decided to go to Charles University. So, getting back to exactly the question you asked, with respect to my days at university, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about how medical school really is. It's very different in a lot of different places. People have different responsibilities, but I'm going to give you a general overview of what my days were like when I started out. So in my first year, so at my uni, the first year is actually really intense because they want to really wait out the students that are uh, you know prospective doctors from the students that aren't really there to study. So they make it really rigorous. You have exams every day. A typical day would be 8 to 11. You'll have lectures. I mean, from I'd say 11:30 to 1, you'd have practicals, and sometimes in the evenings, from or in the afternoons from 3 to 5, 5:30, you'll have class again. So that'll be a pretty full day. Then you'll get home, study, and then take a test the next day and kind of go on it again. So it was a pretty heavy year. Personally, for my batch, I was in the international batch. So for my batch, out of the people that started, there were about 80 people that were in the batch, and only about 40 made it through the first year. So they really try to grill you in that first year. So it's important to make sure that you're on it, you're interacting with the right people, you're keeping the right kind of company, and you're enjoying the medicine. When you get into med school, there's really nothing like finally being able to study the things you always wanted to study, or study the things you were always intrigued by. If not, if you were like me, if you were someone who didn't always want to do medicine, I'm sure that you'd still be intrigued by all the processes that lead up to becoming a doctor. So it was really intriguing for me to actually interact with so many great international students, and also to get to really experience the important subjects in medicine firsthand. So that's what the first year was like. As the years go on, you sort of get a little bit more time on your hands, and you kind of need it because you have a lot more to study as years go on, up until the sixth year, which is quite a heavy year for me. It was quite a heavy year because it's just clinical rotations, and side by side you're prepping for exams. So for my sixth year, it was just me going to the hospital in the mornings and afternoons, and then getting home and studying for the rest of the day because we had our exams going on. So yeah, but like I said, it's not exactly how everyone makes it out to be. You do get time to spend with yourself. You do get time to spend with your friends. You get time to explore whatever place you're in. You get a lot of free time as well. So it's not really something that um, you know, it's not what people make it out to be really. It is a lot of work, but you will get time to, you know, venture out, wander, have a good time. Uh, all of that is still part of your life. With respect to what my day would be like as a junior doctor, I can't give you an exact description because it'll be different for different systems, but it's usually pretty heavy. There'll be long hours. There'll be 24-hour shifts. There'll be a lot of paperwork. As a doctor, you don't actually really think about how much paperwork there's going to be. So there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of if you're in the emergency department, there's a lot of unexpected cases that come in, and um, a lot of different things you need to think on, different scenarios in which you need to really think on your feet. So I'd say that's one of the attributes you should um, try to develop through med school, because they'll teach you the anatomy, they'll teach you the physiology, they'll teach you the pathology, but they might not be able to teach you how to be a quick thinker. So that's something you need to really emulate on your own. With respect to medicine, the way TISB is it's such a high performing, highly academic environment. You always have to strive to do your best, and you learn so much from the people around you at TISB about, perseverance and hard work. I really enjoyed my time at TISB because I got to interact with a lot of new people who had um, different kinds of exposure in life. So when I got exposed to all these people, I really tried to do my best to work as hard as they were working, and do as hard as do everything um, to the best of my capabilities at the time. So when I was applying to med school, I really wanted to make the right decision and work hard to sort of get there. But there were some things that were obviously in my way. So I applied to the UK and I applied to the European Union. Those were the two places that I was really aiming to apply to. In the European Union, I applied to Charles in the Czech Republic, and I also applied to the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland and Trinity College Dublin in Ireland, and four other universities in the UK. So these were my main options because I didn't want to study in the US. I gave it some thought, but I felt like having to do an undergraduate degree before I got the chance to study medicine was really not the pathway I wanted to take. I wanted to become a doctor as soon as possible, and I felt like this was more in keeping with what I wanted at the time and what I thought was best for me. So I took that, I made that decision. With respect to my applications to the UK, they were not exactly, they didn't exactly go the way uh, I would have wanted. I had some issues with applications. The college tutoring department and the college counseling department was definitely a great department, but they did not have as good an understanding as one would have needed to apply to medical programs in the UK, because those programs required a lot of extracurricular work that we even had, but I felt like the guidance was not exactly in the direction I needed. Um, so I got an interview in the UK, but when I went to the UK for the interview, I felt like I was a bit out of my depth because I was interacting with people who were, a few years older than me, who had already had a certain amount of experience to things, and I hadn't. So it didn't really go my way in the UK. But things went pretty well for me in the European Union. I got a spot at Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, and I didn't take up that spot because I thought that it would be better for me to go to Charles University. I was happier with the idea of going here. So the process in itself for application to medicine is quite tedious, but if you have the right guidance and you're looking in the right direction, then I feel like it's very possible to get a spot at a lot of great medical universities. um, Grades are important, but a lot of extracurricular activities have to be done. You have to do sort of volunteer work. You have to do maybe rotations if you can, like just shadowing a doctor or something like that, just to get a feel of things. They really value that, especially in the UK. With Charles, it wasn't as complex. It was a lot more straightforward. I had to write an exam. If I did well in the exam, then the spot's mine. So I wrote the exam and I got the spot, and I was quite happy with it. The reason I chose Charles, actually, I came across Charles because my mom made me aware of it. She was actually, when I was applying, she said that, hey, I've heard about this university. Why don't you take a look? And even some of my friends at TISB were talking about it. So I had a look at the curriculum. I had a look at the the different faculties they had, and I was actually quite happy with the way they went about medicine, because there's different methodologies of teaching medicine now. There's something called traditional medicine, which is the way it was taught in the early ages, and it's the way they teach it in India, and that's also the way they teach it in the European Union in some places. Charles University was one of them. In the UK and in Ireland, they go more on organ system based medicine, so they go with specific organ systems at a time, which is a bit different. So I actually preferred this traditional medicine approach. So that was one of the reasons that I chose Charles University. It actually had a really great reputation. It's one of the oldest universities in Europe. It was made in like the 1300s, and there's a lot of uh, notable alumni that went there. Um, and it actually sat very well with the ideas that I had when I was going to do IB to begin with, because I wanted to explore the world. I wanted to see what's out there. And, the UK would have been a great experience. The US would have been a great experience. But to be in a country where you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, and then living there, imbibing everything that's around you, learning new things in different ways than you would have if you were in an English speaking country, that's actually a great growing experience. So that was also one of the reasons that I wanted to go there. um, Being in the EU, it's really great because you have a lot of freedom to move around, so you get to travel a lot, and that's also really great. Plus, since I have an EU degree, uh, I have the right to work anywhere in the EU, so that also makes it really a really good decision. It made it a really good decision for me. So yeah, those are some of the reasons why I chose Charles. So Charles University is a city-based campus, which is based in Prague. But with respect to the medical faculties, they have five medical faculties. They have three of them that are based in Prague, one in a town called Plzeň, and one in a town called Hradec Králové. And the one that's in the town called Hradec Králové is where I studied. So it was a town a little bit further away from Prague, and we. It was actually a really positive aspect of me studying there, because some would think that not being at the center of the Czech Republic would be a little bit more difficult, but it actually worked out to be a lot easier for me. Um, Being in a relatively smaller town meant that it was a lot more convenient to get to places. It was a lot cheaper with respect to food, stay, and also the town I was in had the medical faculty, it had the dental faculty, it had the nursing faculty, as well as the faculty of pharmacy. So there were quite a lot of students in the town. So it was a pretty positive experience for me to be in that town, as opposed to Prague, which could be a little bit more overwhelming, I'd say. Being alone in a big city in Europe, it would have been a bit overwhelming for me. With respect to the batches, so the faculty I was at had two batches, and I think all the faculties do. They have the Czech batch, which is the teaching is only in Czech, and then they have the international batch, which has teaching in English, and they teach you Czech and Latin as you go along. So that's what I meant when I said I'm in the international batch. With respect to living in the Czech Republic, it was a bit difficult at first, and even towards, I mean, throughout my degree, I didn't reach a level of fluency in Czech. I reached a level of fluency in the medical aspects of it, so medical Czech. But in general, I didn't reach a level of fluency, and I could still get around. Obviously, there is a mild sense of alienation that you can feel sometimes when you're living in a country where you don't really speak the language. But if you do make the effort to speak the language, um, they the people that I interacted with were really happy when I tried to speak with them in Czech, and when I developed a good level of Czech. And also, the European mentality is actually quite it sat really well with me, because it was very straightforward, and it was very professional, and it wasn't I didn't feel like the environment was as racially charged as I've seen in certain other countries. So that was something that I felt personally that was good. So yeah, it can be an overwhelming experience to be in a country where you don't speak the language and where you don't know the culture, but it can also be a really great learning experience. And I'd I'd recommend it definitely. It takes a lot of courage to do it, but you'll come out at the other end a lot stronger and with a lot more positive new experiences that you might not get in certain other places. Well, the thing is, since the entire experience is so unique, not only is it that I'm studying in the Czech Republic, but also I'm a medical professional. So both those things put together makes me a little bit different in my approach to things than my peers from high school. But I would say I feel like when you're in an international environment uh, where you are the minority, you're quite you become a little bit more adaptable to the people around you, and you become a little bit more adaptable to the cultures around you. So if I were, for example, in the UK, where there's a significant amount of people who are of Indian origin and they speak English, so I don't really feel like the minority. I might end up not growing as much as being someone who's you know very different from everyone here, or very different from everyone in the Czech Republic, and still having the ability to learn how to interact with all of them. That was something that I ended up imbibing. I feel that some of my peers didn't. So, because most of my colleagues and most of the people that I was studying with were, German, Scandinavian, Indian, Middle Eastern, and I can understand that any international university that you go to, you're going to see those people. But it was a little bit different than that because you had to sort of interact with a lot of different cultures, which were very strongly European at the same time, and it makes you a little bit more fluid. It makes you a little bit more understanding of different cultures because in the UK, when I had visited, the mentality in general was very westernized or very mainstream, and everyone had to sort of abide by it. But in the Czech Republic, everyone had their own mentality and everyone was sort of respecting it. So it was more of a tolerant environment and more of a adaptable environment for me, or I was forced to adapt, and I did. Well, I only went to TISP for my higher secondary schooling. I went to TISP for the IB, and before that, I was in an Indian board school. So, the kind of learning I did in the Indian board was very different from the kind of learning we did at TISB. Doing the IB, especially at TISB, it was a very, very holistic approach to learning. It was all about learning and growing, and you know, actually knowing how to learn things and how to imbibe new information and how to use it. I felt like I got that a lot from TISB. And if I were in a different board or at a different school, I might not have imbibed it as well. So I learned how to grasp new information, how to make use of that new information, and I felt like that was a really, really important process for me. I felt like that really helped me because as I went through med school, I was a lot more secure in the fact that um, I was able to grasp information well. I was able to grasp it in the right way, and that had a lot to do with the fact that I was at TISB and the teaching staff and the students around me were so intelligent and motivated, and all of that just sort of helped me out. So I'd say TISB gave me the skills to know how to learn, to know how to grow. So that's what I'd say. But there are a few other things, like you said, the work ethic that I saw in the students at TISB and that I imbibe myself at TISB it was just excellent. And the kind of friendships I've made, some of the conversations I've had with people at TISB, I've never had conversations like that anywhere else. So that's one thing that I actually realized that, or I think students should realize that TISB is such a high output, you know, high output scenario or high output environment where there's so many gifted individuals who are so intelligent, so hardworking, the kind of interactions you might have at TISB, you might not even have them at university. So I really enjoyed my experience there, and I really grew from it, definitely. Um, if you ask me what I learned at TISP other than this, that or what one would have, or a skill that someone needs to have in high school to get through med school, I think it would just be um, perseverance. It would really have to be perseverance, because you have to really, really work hard, and you have to push a lot of boundaries that you haven't pushed in high school. And you have to be uh, someone who wants to learn new things. It's important, because if you're not really interested in it, then it's not worth your time. It's a long degree, it's a difficult degree, and it'll really, really change the way you look at the world. But if you're not, and if you're not willing to put in the efforts, and if you don't want to work through the failures, then it'll be really difficult to get through med school. Well, one really important one, which actually keeps me through all the hardships in medicine. There's a lot of, if you're going to med school, there'll be at least 100 times where you're gonna sit down and think it's time to quit. It's time to go. It's too tough. But for me, your career has to feed different aspects of your personality. It has to feed different aspects of your thinking. It has to feed different aspects of your being. And one of the really important aspects of your being is your purpose in life. You have to, we have purpose, we're intelligent beings. So for me, when it comes to medicine, there are so many different aspects of my thought that are being fulfilled. So you know having a breadth of knowledge, being able to think on my feet. These are things that are being fulfilled in medicine, and they're helping me grow, and that keeps me in the field. But personally, I have quite a strong um, philanthropic side, and being able to help people, being able to change someone's life. If you really want to do that, and if that's part of your purpose, then medicine is really for you, because you'll be able to help a lot of people in the process. You can do work in rural places and in urban places. You can help people who are, you know, at the border between life and death, and bring them back. So that's really, a gift, and this profession really feeds that philanthropic side for me. Being able to help someone or being able to better the world. That's something that I wanted to do, and I actually didn't even know that this was an important aspect um, that would push me through medicine when I was in high school. I didn't think that it would actually, obviously, if you think about it consciously, yes, if you're doing medicine, you're helping people, and that helpful side of you is fed. But I didn't actually give it as much thought as I did through med school. So I'd say, if you feel that way, or if you feel like you want to help people and serve people, and you want to make sure that other people's lives are good, and in that process you feel good in your own life, then looking at, health sciences, so medicine, nursing, things like that, that'd be really a good idea. um, Other than that, I mean, you have to have the generic, you have to have good scores, you have to be a good student. That's important, but um, you have to really know that you want to do it. And to be honest, with respect to a field like medicine, now in hindsight, I was in such a rush to do it, but I would not um, tell someone to just jump into it if they were unsure. I'd say that if you want some time, going through the US system is also not a bad idea. It's a great idea to take your time and do an undergraduate degree and feel around for what you really like, or take a year off. It's very, very okay in life to take a year off. It's really scary for a lot of people. It was really scary for me, because when I got into Charles, I had finished my IB exams, and that's when I took my entrance exam. And I had when I was preparing for the interviews for my university applications, the whole college counseling team, so Kitty Bell and a few others, as well as the principal, Mr. Armstrong, I think. yeah, he was there, and they were all really helpful. And I think a few weeks before my IB exams, Mr. Armstrong sat me down and he said, "Listen, you're a really good student, and you know, you've got a great future ahead of you. And right now, if the applications are not going your way, it's all right. Why don't you take a year out and strengthen your portfolio and figure out what you want and apply again? And then if you have a good score in your IB now, so if you just focus on your IB and you take some time out and you apply again, you'll definitely have what you want. You'll get a spot in med school." And at the time, I felt like that wasn't the right decision for me because I felt like I needed to get into med school right now. But people who are on that verge between, oh, should I take some time off or should I not? It's very, very okay to take some time off and understand what you want, understand how you want to go about your life. It's really important because when you get out of high school, you really have to understand how to make decisions for yourself. And if you keep following the herd mentality, it's really not going to work out well for you. So I'd say take time to think about these decisions. It's important.
Yeah, definitely. And I can only highlight that more because of the fact that we're in the pandemic right now, right? Like
Exactly,
a lot
exactly.
of people who are applying to colleges this year is something that's extremely important to think about, regardless of the degree that you're pursuing, is taking
Hmm.
time off because it can be so
Hmm.
beneficial to you. And also you have to weigh it now against the quality of the college education you're going to be getting, right? A lot of colleges are online now and all
Hmm.
that stuff is happening. So I think it's important to
Hmm.
definitely like consider it. Yeah.
So, with respect to high school grades, um, I think if you're a relatively good student and if you have drive to become a doctor, if you really want to, then having average or even maybe a bit below average grades wouldn't be as much of a problem because you can strengthen um, your portfolio in a lot of other ways. You can do, like I said, you can do shadowing, you can do reading and talk about books that you've read. You can talk about the work experience, or sorry, the volunteering experience that you've done. So really, you can strengthen your portfolio in that way. But with respect to the academics at university, um, it's not anymore about being a good student. It's more about wanting to learn. Like, like for example, I graduated my university summa cum laude, but my colleague who didn't was just as good of a doctor as I am, maybe even better. And his grades weren't as good as mine, but his knowledge, his drive for having a good clinical approach to medicine was great. So I mean, there are going to be a lot of scenarios where academics can be a barrier if you're not very, very academically gifted. But don't, I wouldn't say that it's the only thing that's keeping you going. There's a lot of other stuff that is important. And I think with respect to medicine, having a drive to actually learn and having a drive to actually help people and actually wanting to do it, your grades will be better. And with respect to difference between high school academic, the high school academic scenario and the university academic scenario, a lot of people that I know who were relatively average students at high school, since they got into career paths that they really enjoyed and had an aptitude for, turned out to be very, very excellent students at university because they had the drive for those subjects and they wanted to do them and they were putting in the work that they needed to put in, and they knew that they were doing it for themselves. And obviously, if they're in that kind of a scenario, it's going to be really conducive towards their grades and everything. So, my advice to anyone who's applying to med school and thinks that their academics is a barrier is try to have good grades. Definitely try to work hard in school, but don't think that if you don't have the grades right now, you're not good enough to do it. You can always work on your grades. You can always work on your portfolio. And once you get into medical school, if you have the drive, your grades will be good. Definitely. I'm sure of it. If that someone has the drive to do it and they want to imbibe the information and they want to learn, they'll definitely do well. I'm pretty sure of that. I'll have to be 100% honest. The last 2 years of med school have been some of the heaviest years of my life. They've been pretty stressful. I've I've, I've had to read upwards of God. I mean, I've had to read so many books and buy so much information. I've I never had to wear glasses until like recently. I've got glasses now. I'm losing hair because I've been stressed. My I was very into fitness in high school and I was very into fitness at university. But for the past 2 years, my fitness has been really erratic. So I went from someone who went to the gym every single day of my life since the eighth grade to someone who went once in 2 weeks. So it when it comes to crunch time, you kind of really have to put in a lot of effort. And quite often, my mental health did get to take a big hit during exam time because towards I was always quite secure of taking exams. I was always quite comfortable and confident, but towards my last couple of years, I actually started to develop a lot of exam anxiety, and because of that, I was studying so much, and also I was so anxious that before an exam, that be my daily routine would be wake up, have maybe one meal in the day, and study for like God knows how many 10, 12 upwards hours. And that's 10, 12 hours for me in a day is a lot. It's, I mean, for some people, it'll be like pretty average. I mean, I'm sure you spoke with Divya. Yeah, that's a cakewalk for her. She does like 20, 22 hours a day. I don't know what she does. But for me, doing that much of study in a day is really, really taxing. So I'd lose weight. I'd have dark circles around my eyes. So most of the and all my exams were oral exams. They were where you had to present cases or where you had to talk about things. So I'd always turn up to the exam looking like I'd been hit by a truck. Just there was one exam period. For one exam, I was studying for 2 months, and I had lost like 5 kilos of weight. And it was just it's quite stressful when it comes to exam time, and it can take a toll on your mental health. So understanding how to manage stress early on is very, very, very important. I think not only for medicine but any competitive field or any taxing field that you're in, or any field at all. If you don't know how to manage stress, you're going to have a little bit of an issue. It's okay to talk to a mental health professional. It's good to find an outlet for your stress. Like I said, my exercise was a really great hobby of mine, but it's also a really great outlet. And since I didn't end up having the time to do exercise because I was studying, that outlet got compromised, and then the stress management also got compromised. So it's important to have uh, a, a, a good daily habit, a good daily hobby. Um, and it's important to understand that exams are assessments. They're not to put you down. They're to see how well you know something. And if you don't know something well, that doesn't mean you're a bad student or a bad person or you're going to be a bad doctor. It just means that in that moment you need to give it a little bit more. It's fine. That's the mentality I'm going through life with now. Like after I completed med school, it's hitting me that if I'm taking like for example, I'm taking my licensing exams now, and if I fail them or something like that happens, it doesn't mean that I'm a bad doctor or that I don't know how to treat my patients. It just means that right now was a bad attempt, or I didn't give it my best, and I can try again later. It's all right. So managing stress, managing exam anxiety and things like that is really, really important, because your mental health is going to take a toll at university, even if you're in a very, very uh, a field that does not require as much of really heavy study. So um, that's important. And it's not only exam anxiety. There's going to be anxiety about your future. You're going to be thinking about what pathway you want to take in life. Like for example, if you're a student who's in an undergraduate degree in the US and you want to take up med school later, but you feel like you're not on the right path, or you're unsure of whether you're going to get a spot, and then if you don't get a spot, it might be that you're undergraduate degree was for nothing or something like that. I have friends who've been in undergraduate degrees in the US who wanted to pursue medicine, who actually left the undergraduate degrees and came to India to pursue medicine. So there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in these scenarios, but it's it's good to respect yourself, have confidence in yourself, make imperative decisions in a, a sort of um, in a sort of, how do you say, like a well-read manner, really uh, make educated decisions in your lives. And it would always be best if you have a support system. So have friends, have family who you can talk to about the stresses that you have in your lives. And that would be really beneficial for your mental health when you're going through any course, especially medicine. So yeah, that's what I think. Because for my university study in my sixth year, basically they're um, basically called like board exams, but they're highly stressful exams because the exam is just consisting of you and 7 or 8 doctors who are specialists in the field that you're going to talk to them about, who are just interrogating you. And that can really, really overwhelm a lot of people, So, and that's going to be at some point in your life, you are going to be interrogated in that manner or tested in that manner. And it's stressful. It's very stressful. The prep for it and taking it as well is very stressful. So, having proper stress management is really, really important. With respect to applications, um, if you've done the IB, you're not planning on staying in the country that you've studied the IB in quite often. So if you're studying in India and you're studying the IB, you most probably want to leave the country. And there are certain realities about leaving the country. Um, when you're in another country as an international student and then as an international graduate, it's always harder for you to get a position as compared to a student who was in the system. So if I'm applying to the UK, it's always going to be harder for me as an international medical graduate to get a spot as compared to a UK graduate. And those are some realities that you definitely have to face. So right now I'm doing my UK licensing exam, which is a two-step exam, which technically I shouldn't have to do because I graduated from the EU. So my colleagues who are graduating with me at my university who have EU passports don't have to take this exam. But I have to take this exam because I have an Indian passport. It's a two-step exam and it costs a lakh of rupees. So uh, and it pushes you back like 6 months because you have to take the exams, you have to prep for the exams, and then you have to apply to the jobs. So it's a bit difficult in that sense. Since I did the IB and I didn't take a third science, when I'm applying to India, I'm having trouble with the Medical Council of India because according to the Indian rules, you have to have 3 sciences in high school, and I don't have 3 sciences in high school. So that's something that I need to be, getting on. I have to haggle with them. I have to apply. Maybe I might have to take legal help. So that's a thing. I'm interested in, I'm interested in doing surgery in the future, and to have a good surgical portfolio, you have to have a certain amount of research. So I might have to go to the US to do research for some time, because the US medical research is very highly regarded, and it's done, in bulk amounts. So getting to do that research is really important for me. So there is always something or the other. Even if I'm to go back to the EU, so one of my options is to study or to do my residency program in Germany. But I don't have to take any licensing exams, but I do have to take a language exam, which is something that you'd have to prep for some time for. So there's every pathway is going to have some trash in it that you have to overcome. It's all about being confident, looking out for yourself, and taking things one at a time. So it's very real that you're going to have these problems, but i definitely I definitely say that it's not good for you to let someone tell you what you can and can't do, because there were a lot of scenarios where people would put me down or tell me that I wasn't worthy of doing a certain degree or a certain course or something like that. And if since I had faith in myself, I went ahead and I did it. You know, so it's all about being confident and having faith in yourself in these years, because the decisions you make right now, you need to be confident of those decisions so that you don't regret them later in life. You really need to respect yourself and be comfortable in the things you're doing, and not really take all these other things to heart, not really take, you know, all these administrative issues that you might have to heart, or a lot of people are going to have work visa problems when they go to other countries. So not taking that to heart and trying to work through it and persevere in that way, it's really important, I think. Yeah. There was a funny scenario where I had come late to class. I'm chronically late to things, so I had come late to my general surgery practical class, and the doctor um, was a really. This is not exactly the interaction with the patient, but this is actually a medical experience. So the doctor was a really he's sort of weird guy. He had a weird way about doing things, and normally any doctor who, if you're late to class, they wouldn't really care. But he had a bit of a problem, so he said, "How are you going to make up for it?" And I was kind of flustered because I didn't know what he meant. And he said, "Why don't you come tomorrow at 8 a.m. to the emergency department and help me out?" And it was a Saturday and I was really not in the mood to go. So I tried to speak with him after class, and he's like, "All right, you don't have to come tomorrow, but stay today until 5. I have to do, he was a general surgeon. So he said, I have to do a surgery. So stay today till 5. And your punishment for today is for you to assist me in the surgery." And I thought that was really great, because that's not a punishment at all. That's really a positive experience. And so I got to scrub up in fourth year, which is, I mean, that's kind of unheard of, and assist him in a surgery for a bowel perforation of an old patient. And it was a really, really cool experience for me. I think I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. And yeah, that was just a really positive experience.